the point of my research is very simple. The thesis is items that are readily available for purchase in an airport terminal can be used to build dangerous weapons. Simple enough. So I wanted to set out to prove that. So how was I going to do that? Step one, define a good scope. So essentially what I'm using is only materials that you can buy or they give away for free, right? So no taking light bulbs down or anything like that. So anything like napkins, coffee stirrers, all that's fair game. You have to be able to walk in with nothing but cash or some form of payment and a small travel-approved multi-tool, like the one in my pocket. This thing is actually pretty small, but it's very good, so I definitely recommend it. All right, so out-of-scope things. We're not going to talk about the psychology of hostile takeovers. I'm not going to get into that today. I'm not going to talk about smuggling in prohibited items, because that would kind of defeat the whole point. Found objects are off limits. Now, by found objects, I mean this guy, which I'm pretty sure are unattended the vast majority of the time. They're just kind of hanging out. And what is this stuff, right? You got to think airports aren't terribly filthy. Thank you, Freud. Right. Airports aren't terribly filthy, and there's a lot of people. So that cleaning stuff must be pretty good. So there's a grape drink, and there's some black bags, just in case. Here's some lemonade. I figured out that was like a charging port for one of the cars that almost kill you. But it looks to me like a little robot that became self-aware and realized it was naked. Oh, hide. All right, these are human neck-sized vice grips, and they come with a chain. There's no words to go with that. These things are all over the place, right? So, if you open this, an alarm's going to go off, people are going to come out. And I'm pretty sure the wafer lock in the top right there, that's to turn the alarm off. I don't know what else it'd be doing. So, who went to Lockpick Village here? Okay, so who could pick a wafer lock here? Okay, now who didn't go to the Lockpick Village? You can all pick a wafer lock. Trick question. This is one of the moving sidewalks. They were working on it. No longer relevant to the talk, but that's actually downtown Charlotte. I photoshopped in under there, in case you were curious. But that's a drill. So if you need a drill for anything, the guys actually working on it were a couple miles down the road. On a 727, I went to the back of the plane to use the bathroom, and I just happened to glance down, and I saw these 2 bottles of oxygen, just kind of hanging out, not strapped down or anything terribly well. And oxygen, as you know, is not flammable by itself, but oxygen in the presence of fire makes everything really fun. Not now, Mr. Smiley Lid. All right, so what's next? We're not going to talk about aircraft vulnerabilities, like everyone sings the brown tone all at once and plane drops out of the sky. That's the best case scenario, actually. And we're also not going to get into the effectiveness of specific government agencies. For good reasons. So step 2, I wanted to identify some basic attack vectors, right? I'm going to make some weapons. I'm going to need to know what to do with the weapons. So these are simple, right? Injure people, create panic and confusion, potentially identify and disarm the marshal, and the 2 big ones, of course, are breaching the cockpit and damaging the aircraft itself. So next step, I wanted to kind of look into improvised weaponry and seeing what people were doing. So I looked into prison. This is actually a shotgun someone made out of bed rails, and they were actually able to escape successfully with this. It's impressive. And then you get a lot of shivs in prison, of course. So much so, I worked out a formula for shiv. So basically, you take anything harder than skin, and you raise it to a point, and you add dookie. You got a shiv. There will be a quiz. I looked into the weapons that are used in the post-apocalyptic world of Fallout. No one's played those games. If you have, they're awesome games. Of course, this guy, because that guy, dude, it's like friggin' reading Rainbow. He could do anything. These guys, they make a lot of weapons out of unconventional means. Also looked at what other people have done, other actual terrorists. So there is Richard Reed, the shoe bomber, who stuffed his soles with high explosives. It looks like an evil waffle maker or something. But here's the Christmas Day bomber who actually had the explosives a little closer to home. These guys were caught, and the explosive didn't go off, obviously, because we're looking at it. This is just a printer ink cartridge stuff with high explosive. That's a scary thing. Next step for me was seeing what's out there, identifying and starting to collect the materials. So I went to a lot of different airports, and I kind of noticed there are like vendor archetypes, right? Every airport you go to, you're going to find your typical like convenience store with like travel stuff and accessories and souvenirs, things like that. You'll always find the duty free where you buy some perfume, makeup, booze, chocolate. There's a ton of electronic stores, iPod docks, more travel accessories, all that stuff. So, and it's Brookstone. So like gadget stores who will sell like little helicopters and fun stuff like that. Then you've got your services. So like your nail work, your massages, your salons. You've got your designer stuff. You can buy sports things here, I've heard. They do have like novelty mini helmets. You can get golf balls here. Some interesting things. And these are my favorites because these are like the regional stores. This is where the really unique stuff's going to be because it pertains to the region. This one as well. So for instance, like these are about the size of a man's fist, and they are solid acrylic, and they're pointy. And they're paperweights. This is a giant rock. So for like a reference, a size reference, that's like a coffee table book there. This is like bigger than a Frisbee. We're getting into pizza range. Oh, here's a rock with points already on it. Awesome. So there's food, obviously, and then there's the homeland. So kind of wraps that up. So you got stuff. You got some weapons you want to make. Where are you going to do it? Talk about workspaces. Family restaurants, probably the best place. The door locks. You've got cover noise. You've got power. You've got water. You can dispense tiny bacon. You've got a workbench if you need it. If you're at a larger airport, they've like these microtels, little nap rooms. I've never actually been in one of those, but I'd love to. I'd say they're pretty quiet and good for weapon making. Okay. So, step 5, I wanted to start building weapons. So this is kind of phase 1. Since I don't do this full time, it's really kind of a hobby. I had to take this in phases, and phases typically correspond with presentations to fine folks like yourself. So phase 1, I wanted to kind of make a wide variety of things to kind of see what was effective, what's not, and then kind of go from there, right? Become more and more effective, more and more nasty as you go. So getting into the builds, the first one I used magazines, Lady Liberty fridge magnets, braided leather belts, Scotch tape, and got me the Chucks of Liberty. So this is basically just a very tightly wound magazine that's reinforced with Scotch tape. I've got a couple strips of leather that's kind of keeping it all together. And of course the leather is also holding the ladies on. Yeah. All right. Let's see how this works. Because I've got a test video. That could have gone better. Okay, well, so what I did is I took out so the problem was this. I didn't buy real leather belts because I bought like 10 of them, and they're kind of pricey. And so I bought like the fake stuff that's like just a little bit harder than lambstool. And so I threw that out, and I instead like did 10 strands of waxed dental floss. Just like, start rolling that together. It's a whip or a rope or a chain or something. You can't break it. Freaking Samson. So as you noticed, I've got a coconut as kind of my test analog because it's due to my completely unscientific research is kind of like a human skull in hardness. The Liberty Lady Liberty fridge magnets. I was really hoping they'd be metal, but they weren't. They're actually like this resin material. But that's okay because when you hit stuff with it, they break off and stay. No, that's bad news. All right, build number 2. I took a hairdryer, compression socks. I took an umbrella, braided leather belts, took a lot of condoms, and that got me Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is a sling bow. Essentially, it's a cross between a slingshot and a bow and arrow. Now, what I've done here is hollowed out the hairdryer, I'm running the fiberglass shaft of the umbrella through the middle. The lamb stool strips are holding everything together, only just. In the back, I've got these condoms that I've braided together. That's really tough. And I've got this strip of compression hosiery just to keep the fiberglass from tearing up the condoms. Because fiberglass is the devil. It's awful. Look at that. You all have splinters now. Oh, all right. So let's test it out. All right, build number 3. I took a robot grabby creepy uncle. I don't know if those have like real names. That's what it is. Magazines, an umbrella, Scotch tape, dental floss, a double wall tumbler, and a luggage handle. And that got me a dandy little crossbow. So what's going on here is I'm using the ribs of the umbrella as my elastic force. Dental floss is working as the string. I'm actually using one of the ribs of the umbrella as the bolt as well. And the little ends of the umbrella spokes, the little dots on the end, the metal pieces. That's like actually really soft metal. So I fouled that down to a point and put that on the end. It worked pretty well. So here's the trigger. It's essentially just a bent piece of metal I got out of the carry-on. And so to fire it, you just twist that around. That releases the keychain ring, releases the bolt. That makes sense? Everybody following? All right. So we're doing well so far. We made some fun stuff. Build number 4. I got magazines, Scotch tape, some dental floss, the Constitution of the United States of America, a Washington Monument pencil sharpener, which is just metal, and that got me America. Freaking America. Hey, actually, I've got it right here. America. And I'll pass that around never. It's heavier than it should be. Oh man, that's where I keep all my cares. So it's the same, the usual suspects. I've got magazines doing the heavy lifting here. I've reinforced that with a lot of dental floss, Scotch tape, and it makes a pretty hard, solid material. Let's test it. All right. We're doing well. I don't think the coconuts have won once. Just that melon. All right, number 5. I took Zippo lighters, disposable lighters, a Parent AR Drone 2.0, Scotch tape, and that got airplane mode. Airplane mode is a remotely triggered detonator. Here it is with the transmitter. Essentially what's going on here is I've got the brushless motor from the helicopter hooked up directly to the Zippo flint wheel, which is resting on the flint from a disposable lighter, and so the spring is keeping that pressure. So as soon as you hit the trigger, the throttle thing, what's the term? Throttle work. That starts spinning like crazy. It would not take a whole lot of that to catch things on fire. So just a quick note, the transmitter receiver I used was cheaper than the $400 AR Parrot drone thing. And so it used infrared to communicate, so line of sight was required. But the one they sell at the airport communicates over Wi-Fi. So you don't really necessarily have to be really all that close to the receiver. It's limited only by the range of Wi-Fi, which is pretty far. All right, so that was kind of phase 1. I took a wide variety of things, got some melee, got some projectile, and got that last guy. Phase 2, I presented Hack in the Box in Amsterdam, like exactly a month later. So I didn't have a whole lot of time. So I wanted to take kind of the one that I thought had the most potential, run with it, and kind of see where I got. So what I did is I took airplane mode. kind of identified a few things that I didn't necessarily like, a few problem areas. So like one, it's really complex. There's a lot of moving parts. Because of that, it takes a lot longer to build, and it's quite noisy. It sounds like the most annoying sound ever from Dumb and Dumber. Also, it just uses low voltage, so we'll talk more about that later. But really, I mean, you can make sparks, and that's fun, but we want to blow something up, right? So my next task was like finding something to cause an explosion with. So I looked at butane, which is, it's not potent enough, it's a little too stable. Whiskey, that's what everyone goes to, with their gut, but there's really too much water in that to do anything. You could like figure out a way to distill that down into like Everclear or something more potent, but that would take a long time. Chemicals? Maybe. We might even talk about that later. Aerosols. Abso-frickin-lutely. So all you have to do is get them hot enough to fail catastrophically. So obviously I need to start a fire. So to do this, I had to build a few additional components. So I took an RC jumbo jet, and you see these guys everywhere. And actually, the important thing is this, the insides, which is essentially, you've got your antenna, switch, receiver, LEDs, a piezo electric buzzer, a motor, and a 3-volt power source. Took some 9-volt batteries, took a magnetic metal clip. These are usually like souvenirs, Scotch tape, some dental floss, and that got me this, which is kind of hard to understand, but it's a remotely triggered mechanical relay. I've exploded it out so we could make a little more sense of it. So looking at the top left is a magnetic fridge clip. I removed the spring because it was a little too strong. A positive and negative wire feed up through that, and the only thing keeping those wires from touching is the non-conductive whatever you want, kind of in the middle of the clip. So if we want to turn our light bulb on, all we have to do is connect the negative and positive wires, right? So to do that, you hit either forward or backwards on the remote. That motor starts spooling up. It starts, winding that dental floss, and that pulls the non-conductive whatever out of the way. That closes your higher voltage circuit. Does that make sense? All right, this is how it works. I'm using a hairdryer fan to test. So that has gotten me, it's not over. All right, so now I can close, a 9-volt circuit with whatever from my seat. Okay, the next thing I wanted to look at is the igniter. I wanted a little more efficient way to do that. I did that really with just batteries, a lot of them. As you know, or may not know, that if you run a lot of current through a thin gauge wire, it acts as a resistor of sorts and heats up very rapidly. And so that's just what I did. So I ran it through a couple things, like a spring from a disposable lighter, and eventually like a coil from a hairdryer. All of that works. I put the flint in there just to see what had happened, and it kind of sparked. It was fun, but it's completely optional. So that's really all there is to it. To test this, I kind of ran it up through a Zippo lighter next to the wick. And here's the setup. I've got the Zippo propped up against that tape. I've got my mechanical relay on the right and my array of batteries. All right, and so without much effort or time at all, you have a fire. All right, so putting this all together, I took a standard carry-on piece of luggage, took some super glue, which they sell at airports, a hairdryer, and a mini trash can that turned out to be completely optional. And imagine that. But it's part of the name, so I kept it. That became me parting gifts from a grouchy man. So a quick fact, fire and oxygen make good bedfellows. They're good friends. We talked about that some earlier, but really bummer is that oxygen does not really get into a closed suitcase very well. So what do? Well, you stick a fan on it, right? Cut a hole in the side of the suitcase and wedge a fan from a hairdryer. And so looking down in it, there's the motor and the turbine from the hairdryer, which is the sole job is to pump a bunch of air into the suitcase. I don't know if you guys are anyone like did Boy Scouts or anything, but what I was going for originally was kind of like a wood gas stove. It's a low oxygen environment that really efficiently burns whatever you have in there. I thought that would be necessary to like build up heat. And So anyway, so that turned out to be completely unnecessary. Actually, the thing that ended up working was just running current through a wire wrapped in toilet paper. So no Zippo, no trash can, but it's there and it looks cool. So this is kind of the complete picture. I've filled up that trash can with coffee stirrers. I've got some flammable stuff up top, the relays on the bottom, and my 72-volt array for the igniter is in the center, and then off to the side is the 9-volt that runs the hairdryer. So what's next? I fill it full of flammable crap. And the lid, of course, I stuff full of aerosols. So, so this is actually, this worked on the third try. Tweaked some things, and I only had 3 aerosols in this particular run because I was concerned that like the explosion would put the fire out. Not so much. So this kind of takes place over 4 minutes. I cut it in to make the video shorter. By the way, at this point, everyone is freaking out. There's the fan dying, because of the fire. All right, so I'm gonna let that run. That took 1.5 extinguishers to put out. So it does beg the question: if 4 or 5 people brought these on one airplane, like how many extinguishers do they have? I don't know. Interesting. So okay, I did want to talk a little bit about something maybe a little more practical, something that actually you could potentially apply to your life. And that is kind of the 2 underlying forces behind research like this. I get asked the question all the time when I show people, like, how do you think of this stuff? And so I'm going to attempt to answer that in this next section. So one of those things is resourcefulness. And of course, when you hear resourcefulness, you think of that guy. And like, you can't really tell, but this picture was taken 6 seconds after he woke up. And he already has the bomb behind him diffused, and he's got an alligator clip in his hand. He's got perfect hair. And he took his picture himself, and he took it with a roll of toothpaste. That's impressive. MacGyver, he's awesome, right? He could do anything. He looks at this, and he's able to see this. That's the difference. So how does he do that, right? I mean, it's really not mysterious. Like, he knows what's inside a hairdryer. It really kind of boils down to knowledge. Also, I mean, he's got experience taking one apart. He knows the ins and outs. What are the gives and takes of the materials? What's the best way to get inside one? And of course, he's always prepared. So, like, what does MacGyver have on him all the time? Tube socks. You're right. No, he's got a Swiss Army knife. So he was always prepared. Now, I recommend you guys carry this one, which has like band instruments in it and everything else. But I mean, resourcefulness is essentially knowledge and experience and preparation. So, a little story real quick. My brother and I, we would spend our summers in Kentucky from like the time we could tie our shoes to probably like mid-teens. My grandparents lived there and they had a farm. And so like every day when my grandpa would come home, we'd pile in the back of the truck and ride to town and you get an Ale-8, which is Kentucky's like amazing soft drink. Anyone had an Ale-8? Yes. All right. Okay, so on the way, like, 10, 15, 20-minute ride to wherever we were going, I'd sit in the back and just kind of like imagine I don't know if it was me or somebody else or someone really insanely fast running alongside the car. And they would dig through the yards, right? Because in Kentucky, this particular part of Kentucky, not this part of Kentucky, this is like rural, but everyone leaves their stuff that it doesn't work anymore out in the front yard. So like fridges, cars, they just, it's out there. So I would imagine running along and like picking apart things and trying to make modes of transportation, a glider, a car, whatever. Like imagine doing that. And so like, I guess the point I'm making is it really is kind of a muscle that you work over time. It's not something that just it immediately comes natural to you. But I was doing that when I was a little kid. Yeah. So the other thing I want to talk about is creativity. And I'm not really an authority on creativity at all, but given what I've shown you so far, I hope you'll humor me. What I hear a lot is I am not creative. And so a lot of people, when you start talking about creativity, they just kind of shut down because it doesn't apply to them. But you really are, right? Because there's this section of the brain called the auratus congia, right? And it's actually pretty substantial piece. Okay, hang on. I think I told you wrong. Actually, that's Latin for angry shoelaces. And that section there, that's actually that guy. So, but really, why am I showing you pictures of brain scans trying to convince you you're creative? So let's take a different route. Who in here dreams? Everybody, right? In your dreams, like it's usually you, and you're like sitting at your desk, and you're like, getting work done, and it's great, and you're plugging away, and the boss comes in, and he's like, good job with the work, and then you wake up, and that's a dream, right? Not at all. No, your bare desk, suddenly appears, but that's okay because you're going to ride your desk bare, and you've got a gun that shoots Wikipedia. So, again, I say, everyone is creative, right? We've got the hardware, and it's right up here. And everyone's brain's different, obviously, because we're gifted different things. But like creativity is like totes cross-platty. So when you're sleeping, your brain's like, yeah, and then you wake up and it's like, yeah, I'm out of here, and I stole your television. What's the problem? Right? It's us. We're like the sheriff of crazy thoughts, right? So why is that? So I think that a lot of us, we kind of fight back the urge to think outside of the box, to use a very overused term. I think a lot of us don't do that like in our daily lives because honestly, we are very afraid of a lot of things, like afraid of shame or rejection. We're worried that people will think our ideas are stupid. We worry we're not intelligent to attack the problem at hand. That's a big one. So another is just pragmatism. I think a lot of people feel like they need to go in thinking about an issue, and the only way to be successful with that is to come out with some kind of tangible, practical idea or some implementation they could run with. But I think of ideas as kind of like photographs. So you take 1,000 and you probably get like 10 good ones, right? Well, just keep taking pictures. The next 1,000, you might very well get 20. So another thing is projection. So if someone sees the execution or the manifestation of someone else's creativity and dismisses themselves because like, well, I can't make a statue out of squirrel turd, that's impossible. I must not be creative then, but it's certainly not the case. It's just your creativity might not look like somebody else's. I think it happens a lot. The other one's really simple, but it's just distractions, right? Like I'll be the first to admit that it's very difficult for me to just sit down and think and not do anything else, nothing else at all. So it's kind of a tragedy because if you think about it, like we have the ability to go and bring nothing into a pitch black room and then wait a while and then come out with more than we came in with. Like we have the ability to sit down and solve really, really complex problems and have epiphanies. Like I think that's something that's a lot of people take for granted. And I mean, with all of our advances in computers and AI and all that stuff, like we still can't build something that has one of these moments. Like, holy, I've got it. It just doesn't happen. So another thing is necessity. A lot of people feel like, well, the job doesn't require creativity. But I think if you were to say that to the pioneers of their field, they would probably disagree heartily. So, all right, what can we do about this? First thing, and I think a lot of you guys, especially with what you do, realize that right now anyone with an internet connection could learn almost anything worth knowing for free. So a quick story. The year was 1996, and Quake 1 just came out. I think it was like October or November. And I was 14, so the only thing I did is play Quake, right? So like any good PC gamer, I started looking into modding and all that stuff, and I wanted to learn how to build it myself. So what did I do? I got an AOL. I logged in, and I found Quake C, right? It's a C-like language that exists, purely for creating these mods in Quake. And it's interesting because, like, this exchange right here, like, this really kind of shaped the trajectory of my entire professional career. And this was 17 years ago. So again, I say, right now, anyone with an internet connection can learn anything worth knowing, almost, for absolutely free. So consider this, number 2. What society deems valuable right now is a very poor indicator of lasting value. And I think that's kind of a fancy way of saying, haters gonna hate. Or as the poet-philosopher Rocco said, you just do you, and I'ma do me. I'm gonna leave that there for a sec. Let it soak in. That's long enough. All right, number 3, write it down. Like, if you let your mind loose just a little bit, come up with something crazy, jot that stuff down. Why? I mean, I guess most people do it for posterity's sake, or it also helps stimulate creativity. You can come back and look at your old thoughts and iterate on that and build on it. It also stimulates the brain in a specific way, because there's this section of the brain that is responsible for being awesome. So, yeah, a lot of people worry about this. Like, okay, well, what if people find my stuff? But, I mean, we all voted when you were out, using the bathroom a minute ago, and all pretty much agree that it's high time that you had something that you're completely and utterly unapologetic about. So, if you're worried, make a stash in your house somewhere. Put a safe in. The worst case scenario is you get old and you die with a combination, and your grandkids find it and they think you're awesome. And then 15 minutes later, Reddit thinks you're awesome. Write it down. Okay, number 4, do stuff. Freaking do stuff. Okay, so I would say there's probably quite a few people in this room that like really don't have like their passionate thing, right? They don't have building weapons out of junk, or rapping about heap sprays and buffer overflows. They don't have collecting internet history for no reason for years and years and years to create this giant collection. But you only do that from doing stuff and get out there and do things. That's why these conferences are so great. There's so many different things you could try and so many different things you could do, and the barrier to entry is like 0, because there's a bunch of really helpful people. I mean, there was a cake building contest here, right? You might be passionate about building cakes, and you got to learn that. So you're trying new things because you want to figure out what gets you up in the morning. So a couple challenges, fun challenges, will be to make someone say, I didn't know you blank. Or you yourself say, well, I'll never do that again, at least 3 times. And make sure to write down what you're wearing at the time. That's interesting. Or make somebody say, you've got way too much time on your hands. Which I kind of love that, because, face it, everyone has the same amount of time, but you're mad that I did something awesome with mine. So those are fun, but really do it for yourself. Like, make it a clandestine operation. Don't tell anyone. Like, don't set up any expectations whatsoever. Just do it secretly if you have to, but do this stuff for yourself. Quick story: I was on the campus of NC State. I went there the year 2000, and I was exiting a building, and I just happened to look down, and I saw a sticker, like behind the little push bar, and it said, "If you can't see the Fnords, they can't eat you," and that was it. So this really stuck with me, and And like I'm thinking about why that is. Like there was no QR codes on here or URLs or like, phone numbers or calls to action or anything. That was it. And like it was hidden. Like obviously someone really didn't care if anyone ever found this. This is something someone did like purely for their own amusement. They weren't sitting back and like waiting for people to see the stickers so they could chuckle. I mean, that wouldn't be very funny, really. But I don't know. I think that's pretty odd. I would like to think that this person is still doing this wherever they are right now. Come to find out, that's actually a quote from a really weird book. All right, so finally, then we'll get back to the weapons. Do it big. No, I think that's just a motivational poster. Do it small. So, if there's one thing that I want to really stick with you, like, and I hope this haunts you, honestly, it's the notion that like the next time you tie your tie, or wrap a scarf, or wire up a server room, or introduce yourself to someone, or like address your colleagues, or fold a napkin when you're setting the place setting on a table. Like that is your opportunity to inject a bit of your creativity, because no one cares, no one knows anything about that, and you can just take your time with that stuff, really enjoy it, and I mean get weird with it if you want to. And I think once you get in the practice of doing that, not only is it really fun, you start looking at mundane operations in a completely different light. And also, I think that could very well be the graceful exit to this like hurry people like seem to get in to be common. It's odd. So do it small. So all right, phase 3. I started looking into chemicals that are available in the terminal, and stumbled across lithium. Lithium is available in a lot of primary batteries. It's becoming more and more popular these days. But you'll find them in most 3.3 volt button cells that you'll find in watches. If you pry this open, there's like a half of it that's just like jam-packed full of lithium. This stuff. And actually, I was at Walmart and snapped this photo. This is a battery waste container, and it says, "Hey, forbidden for transport aboard passenger aircraft." So, I mean, I guess someone's aware of this. But the fact is, lithium and water really, really don't get along at all. What happens when you mix lithium and water is an exothermic reaction that's very, very fast, very hot, and it releases very flammable hydrogen gas. And so I set up a test. I wanted to trigger this remotely. In this test, I've got a Starbucks bottle, and in it is a condom with about an ounce of water in it. And I wrapped a thin wire around that, which led to a power source. And in the bottom of the bottle is just lithium. So let's watch that. That is lithium and water. So the next thing I wanted to test was seeing if I can get the heat from that reaction to make a little 1 ounce Axe body spray bottle fail. So the way I set this up was putting the lithium and the water, same configuration in a condom, inside of a larger aluminum can, and I put all of that inside one of the plastic tumblers. And it's an awkward angle, but this is a fire pit. So that worked quite well. What you really couldn't see in that particular interaction was most of that force went straight up because of the aluminum can, and just the energy had pretty much one direction to go. So given what we know now about lithium, I wanted to put this in some sort of weapon. And so after much thought, I settled on the blunderbuss this class. This is a breech-loading shotgun. Made it from a hairdryer. Mentos roll. Let's see. A lot of aluminum, some cardstock, Scotch tape, lots of dental floss. Lots of dental floss. I've got my array of 9-volt batteries in the back, and essentially what triggers all this is pushing down on that fridge magnet, which connects a circuit which makes a wire get very, very hot, which is what causes the reaction. So, without further ado, here's the actual operation. All right, so in case you guys haven't figured out, the Red Bull can is the shell. That's where the magic happens, kids. All right, so inside of the Red Bull can, we've got a condom holding about an ounce of water in the very bottom. And below that, in the very center, is a very small hole. Just above that is lithium metal surrounding a Axe body spray can. There's some wadding, and then above that is whatever you want to shoot out the other end at very high speeds. In this case, I used $1.33 worth of pocket change. There is a small heating element that lines up perfectly with that hole in the back, so as soon as you hit the trigger, condom breaks, and things get started. All right, here we go. This is regular speed. In retrospect, I shouldn't have done that in my garage. And I should have been standing a little further than like 5 feet away from it. That was like actually disorienting. What just happened? I didn't think it worked for a sec. Okay, so of course we have to have slow motion. Also worth noting, like, firearms have recoil. I didn't really expect it to be that much recoil. But yeah, okay, so this is the piece of drywall that I was aiming at. And looking at I drew out, foot-long segments, calculated the feet per second to be about 260. So that's within pellet gun range, but, of course we're slinging quarters, which is a little heavier than a pellet. Here's the setup. So, okay. Oh, actually, I want to show you. Right here. It very much survives, and you could certainly pick it up and fire it again. Live demo. Yeah, I'm just kidding. All right. So, that's the blunderbuss. We do have one more piece of business here. Okay, so when I originally presented this in March at CarolinaCon, I was quiet long enough for something very odd to happen. And here, I'll just play the recording. Yes. Okay, so one more time. Yes. Yeah, someone randomly screamed Hannah Montana from the back of the room. And so with a completely unscientific bit of research, I noticed that it was this man. And I asked him later, I was like, what was that all about? He's like, I don't know, I was trying to throw you off. So, yes. So, this man is Casey Yared, whom we know and love. Casey has been kind enough to pick up a few things here and there on his travels and bring them to me because we thought they had some potential for weapons. Like notable items were a metal space needle from Seattle, and like some hot sauce and a sprayer, and like a pewter spoon that's like really jaggedy, that's like practically a weapon already. So as a token of my appreciation, Casey, I wanted to build a commemorative weapon using some of those items. And here we go.
I came in like a rainbow.
Hannah Montana. Shoot. Okay. So, it was weird. I was digging around in a random drawer in my house, and I found a Space Needle. I was like, well, how did this get in here? And then I went to my office, and I had two. It was crazy. So I used both of them. In the handle is a straw for drinking things, or you could fill it up with hot sauce and blow it in someone's face. I think that would probably work well too. So here she is. And Casey, this is for you, sir. And it wouldn't be a terminal cornucopia talk if I didn't use it at least once to smash a coconut. So, also new is coconut vision. I had my friend's $400 GoPros slapped to this thing. I didn't want to miss. So that is all I have for you today. Anyone have any questions? You, sir, with the cat. Yeah.
Did you fly here with those?
No, I drove.
Okay.
In the back, juggling fire.
How many lithium batteries for the
So if you're using like the button cells, it takes like 12 to 15. But if you find the odd size batteries you use in cameras, like older cameras, most of those have lithium metal in it. Plenty of lithium. What's that? Laptop batteries, no. They've got a lithium ion. It's like a carbonized lithium. It's not nearly as reactive. It allows you to recharge them. There.
Are you on the no-fly list?
No. So all right. So before I show anyone anything I do compile a report and send it to the TSA. And I'm like, hey, this is where I live. This is my number. Call me. You know, if you have any questions. They haven't contacted me since I sent them the shotgun. So we'll see how that goes. Was that? That was after.
It's probably before, too.
Yes. All right. That's it? Oh, back there. That's a great question. That took an evening. Obviously, you wouldn't need a breech-loading shotgun necessarily. It's kind of like a couture item, It kind of shows what's possible. But you could make like a zip gun, more or less, that, just single shot kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about if someone's actually going to use this, they would have practiced at home and gotten their method perfected, and wouldn't take no time. You, sir.
What is the rest of the FBI story after you didn't know why they were there?
Oh, they came in and offered them coffee, and they declined. And so we just sat down and they asked me several times if I actually assembled any of these in the airport. They were concerned about that. I mean, it was friendly. It was a friendly chat. They wanted to know what I was working on next. Told me to keep sending them stuff. Then they left. Then I tweeted about it. Anybody else?
When's your next flight?
Oh, next month. Going to Houston. Fingers crossed. All right. Thanks, guys.